The stars were calm until the signal came. It entered without warning. A raw wave of energy that broke through secure systems, override walls, and quantum encryption. It didn't knock. It kicked open the door to the Galactic Council's private channel and screamed a vision into every mind watching. Ambassadors from over 200 alien species were seated in a marble domed chamber on the peaceful moon of Eris Prime when the signal struck. Their voices fell silent. Their translation devices failed. Every screen on every wall lit up with the same image. A planet shattering like glass in space. Its atmosphere burning, oceans boiling, cities melting under an invisible force. There were no enemy ships, no warning, no survivors, just silence. And then static. The screen went black. Then a single message appeared across every display, written in blood-red galactic standard. Target Earth, next. Right. The silence in the chamber lasted only seconds before chaos exploded. Ambassadors shouted in their languages, clicks, howls, electric pulses. Some demanded emergency security. Others ordered scans. One blue-skinned diplomat from the hidery screamed, "This must be a hoax. No force can erase a planet like that without leaving a trace." But a second signal followed, slower this time. It showed telemetry radiation signatures, gravimetric distortions, heat maps. Everything pointed to one truth. The destroyed planet had existed. Its star system was real. It was now gone. Then someone whispered, "Earth is next." All eyes turned to the human representative, but the seat for Earth's ambassador was empty, far from the moon of Eris's prime. Deep inside the Sol system, Earth's military satellites had already decoded the first signal seconds before the Galactic Council even noticed it. On the dark side of the moon, a black cube satellite lit up like a dying star, activating emergency protocols older than Earth's unified government. In a hidden control center beneath the Antarctic ice, a general woke from cryosleep and stepped into war mode. On Mars, robotic hives began powering up defense platforms buried for decades. At Earth's Orbital Defense Command, Commander Juno Merrick stood on the bridge of the Oblivions, spying a massive black warship shaped like a blade. Her silver eyes stared at the data scrolling across the screen. Radiation patterns, destroyed biospheres, message trails. The enemy didn't just destroy a planet. It erased its history, culture, memory, as if the world never existed. And now, it had set its sights on Earth. Juno didn't blink. "Activate the judges," she ordered. Beside her, Helix the ship's AI spoke with a calm male voice. "All Deathworlder protocols unlocked. Fleet is assembling." "Estimated time to launch?" she asked. 3 minutes? Juno smiled coldly. "That's 3 minutes too late." She turned to the tactical officer. "Jump now." At the edge of the Sol system, black armored ships blinked into view like living shadows. They came from Earth, Mars, Europa, and even the deep Titan colonies. These were not exploration vessels or science crafts. These were the Judges' warships, built by a Deathworld civilization known not for peace, but for power. They carried neutron-hardened hulls, plasma-forged weapons, and AI minds designed for total planetary lockdown. No negotiations. No warnings. Inside one of the ships, a judge named Coro Vega stood with his boots pressed against magnetic plating as gravity shifted. His helmet scanned the air as he ran final system checks. "This looks like the stars finally remembered why they feared us," he muttered. Beside him, another soldier grinned. "They'll remember even harder after this." The Deathworlders didn't speak of diplomacy. They spoke of fury, back on Eris Prime. The alien ambassadors were still in panic mode. When another signal arrived, this time from Earth's fleet, but it wasn't words, no message, just a live stream. They watched as Earth's fleet launched from behind its sun, formed a spearhead formation, and jumped into deep space toward the last known location of the destroyed system. No declaration, no plea for help, no council approval. They were already gone. One ambassador whispered, "They didn't wait." Another said, "They never do." Then the Hadari ambassador, still shaking, leaned forward. "You don't understand. If Earth is destroyed, we are all next. We must act. A third alien voice, a crystalline intelligence, replied coldly. We had 1,000 years to act. Earth warned us long ago. We laughed. Now they're the only ones moving. A silence fell again. This time, it wasn't fear. It was shame. The enemy wasn't visible. It wasn't a fleet. It wasn't a species. It was something older. A presence buried at the edge of known space, hidden behind dead stars, feeding on systems. Like a virus with teeth, it left no trace. It didn't take prisoners. It simply erased entire civilizations. The only clue left behind was a gravitational burn so precise it bent reality into message. Target Earth. Next. Why Earth? No one knew. But Earth had always been different. It had survived ice ages. Nuclear winters, AI uprisings, and 3 near-extinction events before it unified. Earth was a death world, a planet so hostile, only the toughest organisms evolved. The humans who came from it had bones like iron and minds like fire. The galaxy had laughed at their violent history. They weren't laughing now. Juno sat inside, her command chair, watching as the stars shifted. The fleet approached the outer rim. The wreckage of the destroyed system floated ahead. Frozen planets cracked open like eggs, their cores exposed to space. Dead moons floated like broken teeth, but something else waited a pulse. Not from a ship, not from a station, from the space itself. Helix scanned it. Commander, this isn't radiation, it's language. Translate it, Juno said. Helix paused. Then we are the end. We do not hunger. We consume memory. We are coming. Korovega stepped forward, armor humming. They're not machines, he said. There's something worse. Juno stood. Her voice was quiet but firm. Send message to Earth. Engage full battle doctrine. This is not a defense mission, Helix asked. What is the new objective? She stared at the dark. Eradication. The fleet opened weapon bays. Engines roared. The war for the galaxy's survival had begun. And this time, Earth wasn't waiting. It was hunting. Space was cold, but the Deathworlders brought heat. The black fleet of Earth moved through the dead system like a wall of silent rage. No music played. No warnings were sent. These ships didn't glow with honor lights like the other species. They didn't display flags. Their hulls were made of dark matter steel, invisible to most scans. Only the constant hum of their war engines gave them a way deep low, like a growl before a strike. Inside the flagship Oblivion's spine, Commander Juno Marek stared at the holographic battlefield. There were no enemy ships in sight, no stations, just the remains of a star system ripped apart. The destroyed planets floated in slow-motion silence, some still leaking their molten cores into space. Strange energy spikes blinked in and out across the zone, like the galaxy itself was glitching. Helix, the AI, whispered through the speakers, "Gravitational fields here are wrong. Something is still feeding." Juno asked, "Alive?" Helix paused. "Not in a way we understand." Behind her, armored boots echoed as Korovega entered the bridge. He saluted without smiling. "Judges are prepped, running heat shielding at double capacity, but radiation levels are rising fast." "Biological?" "No, but it's not natural either." Juno turned back to the window. "They're trying to keep us out." "That means we're close." Across the fleet, soldiers moved into position. These weren't normal warriors. These were judges, humans trained for survival on a death world. Every soldier had been born under gravity twice, that of most habitable worlds. They learned to breathe poison, run through acid rain, and fight inside black storms. Their armor wasn't just metal, it was alive, adaptive, built from Earth's most hostile nanotech. They didn't fear pain, they trained in it. Judge Kai Lennox sat in a drop bay, strapping on a grav spear and checking his neural link. He looked to the young recruit beside him, a girl named Briza, who hadn't yet seen real war. She asked, "Do you think they're ghosts?" Lennox smirked. "Ghosts don't leave gravity burns like that. Whatever this is, it kills for keeps." The drop bay lights turned red. Final warning. Meanwhile, a group of alien observers had arrived in stealth crafts. They didn't join the fleet. They were only there to watch. These were high nobles from the Arkenzi Federation, the Livox Ring, and the Desseron Voidwalkers. Old, powerful civilizations, who once called humans uncivilized brutes. They now sat silently, watching Earth's fleet enter a zone they had all avoided for centuries. One Arkenzi noble leaned forward. "They're not scanning, not probing. They're just moving straight in," another replied. "Because they're not here to study. They're here to end something." None of them had ever seen Earth's judges in action. They were about to, back in the main war zone. Earth's ships entered the unstable core of the ruined system. Space itself bent around them. Stars flickered and vanished. Time slowed. Some sensors showed dates from hundreds of years ago. Others showed events that hadn't happened yet. Helix gave a warning. Temporal bleed. "We are inside an artificial distortion." "Origin?" Juno asked. "Unknown, but centered inside the remains of Planet 4. Juno looked at the screen. A half-melted planet rotated slowly ahead, split down the middle. One side was frozen, the other on fire. In the center, a black spire reached out from the Cordelerthan Mountains, shaped like a tooth. "Target acquired," she said. "Bring the fleet into strike range." But suddenly, the dead system blinked. Something blinked back. Every ship's viewports darkened. Every judge heard the same thing in their heads, not words, not sound, but emotion. Fear, grief, erasure. The enemy was remembering them. On board the enemy structure, impossible life stirred. Not creatures, not machines, but memories twisted into matter. Fragments of the destroyed planet's last day were playing on repeat. Cities fell again. Children screamed again. The AI network begged for mercy again. And now, Earth's signal entered. The memory turned to face the new arrival. The judges were coming. Judge Lennox and his drop team launched first. Their pods burned through the distortion, warping around black lightning. As the pods hit the spire's surface, the terrain shifted, metal turned into bone. Walls became screaming faces. Time reversed for a moment, then snapped forward. One soldier's heart stopped, restarted 3 seconds earlier. Another saw her mother's death play in the clouds. But Lennox kept walking, because Deathworlders didn't fear memories. They made new ones. He lifted his graph spear, activated the AI link, and said only 2 words. "Clear path." At orbit, Earth's ships opened fire. The spire responded. Dark towers lifted from beneath the dead surface, launching streams of black energy. One Earth ship, Hammerlight, was hit directly. The shields held, but its commander vanished. Not dead, just erased. As if she had never been. Helix screamed, "That is memory-wipe tech. Not physical, not digital, pure cognitive warfare." Juno shouted, "Return fire, full barrage. Use mind-seared protocols." Weapons fired. The sky lit up with red and silver energy. The spire cracked, and inside its core, true enemy began to wake. Alien observers watched in stunned silence as Earth's fleet didn't fall back but moved closer. One Livox prince whispered, "No one's ever dared go inside something like that." Another replied, "Because no one else has the madness." The Arkenzi noble finally stood. "They don't call it a death world for nothing. And now, I think I understand why." On the surface, Judge Lennox reached the entrance of the spire. The walls were made of frozen time. He could see moments floating inside, like insects in amber. He touched one. Flash of his own childhood pains stabbed his mind. Brissa stepped beside him. He said, "Don't look too long." She nodded, breath shaking. Then the wall opened itself. Darkness inside. A whisper came. "You think you can erase me? I am your grief. I am what comes after memory." Lennox didn't answer. He stepped in. Behind him, hundreds of judges followed. Their mission was simple. Find the source, destroy the memory, leave nothing behind, and above them, Earth's fleet was preparing for total war. Space was cold, but the Deathworlders brought heat. The black fleet of Earth moved through the dead system like a wall of silent rage. No music played. No warnings were sent. These ships didn't glow with honor lights like the other species. They didn't display flags. Their hulls were made of dark matter steel, invisible to most scans. Only the constant hum of their war engines gave them away deep. Low, like a growl before a strike. Inside the flagship Oblivion's spine, Commander Juno Merrick stared at the holographic battlefield. There were no enemy ships in sight, no stations. Just the remains of a star system ripped apart. The destroyed planets floated in slow-motion silence, some still leaking their molten cores into space. Strange energy spikes blinked in and out across the zone.
Like the galaxy itself was helix.
The AI whispered through the speakers. Gravitational fields here are wrong. Something is still feeding, Juno asked. Alive? Helix paused. Not in a way we understand. Behind her, armored boots echoed as Corovega entered the bridge. He saluted without smiling. Judges are prepped. We're running heat shielding at double capacity, but radiation levels are rising fast. Biological? But it's not natural either. Juno turned back to the window. They're trying to keep us out. That means we're close. Across the fleet, soldiers moved into position. These weren't normal warriors. These were Judge's humans trained for survival on a death world. Every soldier had been born under gravity twice that of most habitable worlds. They learned to breathe poison, run through acid rain, and fight inside black storms. Their armor wasn't just metal, it was alive, adaptive, built from Earth's most hostile nanotech. They didn't fear pain. They trained in it. Judge Kai Lennox sat in a drop bay, strapping on a grav spear and checking his neural link. He looked to the young recruit beside him, a girl named Breeza, who hadn't yet seen real war. She asked, "Do you think they're ghosts?" Lennox smirked. "Ghosts don't leave gravity burns like that. Whatever this is, it kills for keeps." The drop bay lights turned red. Final warning. Meanwhile, a group of alien observers had arrived in stealth crafts. They didn't join the fleet. They were only there to watch. These were high nobles from the Archenzi Federation, the Livox Ring, and the Desseron Voidwalkers. Old, powerful civilizations who once called humans uncivilized brutes, they now sat silently. Watching Earth's fleet enter a zone they had all avoided for centuries, one Archenzi noble leaned forward. "They're not scanning, not probing. They're just moving straight in." Another replied, "Because they're not here to study. They're here to end something." None of them had ever seen Earth's judges in action. They were about to back. In the main war zone, Earth's ships entered the unstable core of the ruined system. Space itself bent around them. Stars flickered and vanished. Time slowed. Some sensors showed dates from hundreds of years ago. Others showed events that hadn't happened yet. Helix gave a warning. Temporal bleed. "We are inside an artificial." "Distortion? Origin?" Juno asked. "Unknown, but centered inside the remains of Planet 4. Juno looked at the screen. A half-melted planet rotated slowly ahead, split down the middle. One side was frozen, the other on fire. In the center, a black spire reached out from the corridor than mountains, shaped like a tooth. "Target acquired," she said. "Bring the fleet into strike range." Suddenly the dead system blinked. Something blinked back. Every ship's viewports darkened. Every judge heard the same thing in their heads. Not words, not sound, but emotion. Fear, grief, erasure. The enemy was remembering. Them on board the enemy structure, impossible life stirred. Not creatures, not machines, but memories twisted into matter. Fragments of the destroyed planet's last day were playing on repeat. Cities fell again. Children screamed again. The AI network begged for mercy again. And now Earth's signal entered. The memory turned to face the new arrival. The judges were coming. Judge Lennox and his drop team launched first. Their pods burned through the distortion, warping around black lightning. As the pods hit the spire's surface, the terrain shifted, metal turned into bone. Walls became screaming faces. Time reversed for a moment, then snapped forward. 1. Soldier's heart stopped. Restarted 3 seconds earlier. Another saw her mother's death play in the clouds, but Lennox kept walking. because Deathworlders didn't fear memories, they made new ones. He lifted his graph spear, activated the AI. Lincoln said only 2 words, clear path. At orbit, Earth's ships opened fire. The spire responded. Dark towers lifted from beneath the dead surface, launching streams of black energy. One Earth ship, Hammerlight, was hit directly. The shields held, but its commander vanished. It's not dead. Just erased. As if she had never been, Helix screamed. That is memory wipe tech. Not physical, not digital. Pure cognitive warfare. Juno shouted. Return fire! Full barrage! Use mind-shared protocols. Weapons fired. The sky lit up with red and silver energy. The spire cracked, and inside its core, the true enemy began to wake. Alien observers watched in stunned silence as Earth's fleet didn't fall back, but moved closer. One Livox prince whispered, No one's ever dared go inside something like that. Another replied, Because no one else has the madness. The Archenzi noble finally stood. They don't call it a death world for nothing. And now. 8. I understand why. On the surface, Judge Lennox reached the entrance of the spire. The walls were made of frozen time. He could see moments floating inside, like insects in amber. He touched one. A flash of his own childhood pain stabbed his. Mine. Briza stepped beside him. He said, Don't look too long. She nodded, breath shaking. Then the wall opened itself. Darkness inside. A whisper came. You think you can erase me? I am your grief. I am what comes after memory. Lennox didn't answer. He stepped in. Behind him, hundreds of judges followed there. Mission was simple. Find the source. Destroy the memory. Leave nothing behind. And above them, Earth's fleet was preparing for total war. In the heart of Earth's military vault, there was a locked chamber known only as Vault Zero. It had no doors, no windows, no spoken name. Inside that vault slept a weapon Earth had promised never to wake again. It was not a machine, not a ship, not a nuke. It was something far more dangerous. It was Project Silence. And now, as Earth's fleet confirmed the existence of more alien beacons lighting up across the galaxy, more spires, more memory-feeding hives, Commander Juno Merrick knew there was no choice. She stood alone in the vault. Cold vapor danced across the floor. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the black walls, written in languages not found anywhere else on Earth. Helix's voice broke the silence. Commander, you are about to activate a protocol designed only for extinction events, Juno replied. Calm but firm, we are facing one. Helix hesitated. Once awakened, this weapon cannot be controlled. I know, she said. Then she pressed her hand to the core console, and everything changed. Across Earth's moon, a sealed facility, buried beneath the Sea of Tranquility, opened for the first time in 100 years. A single black pod emerged, smooth, silent, floating upward as if weightless. Inside was not a pilot. Inside was Silencer. It had no body in the traditional sense. It was a war intelligence, built from fragments of ancient human minds, failed AIs, and alien thought cores, stolen in forgotten wars. It had no voice, but it could make you forget your own. Silencer didn't destroy planets. It erased them from memory. It was a cognitive weapon, a virus of thought that could rewrite what entire civilizations remembered, if deployed fully. It could erase an enemy so completely that no one would even recall they ever existed. And now, it had a target. On board Oblivion's spine, Juno watched the black pod arrive and dock. Helix was still hesitant. You once swore this weapon would never be released again. Juno looked at the fleet's latest scans. 9 new memory spires, lighting up across 3 sectors. Billions of lives were already at risk. I also swore Earth would never be erased. Walk to the bridge and address the fleet. This enemy does not seek to conquer. It seeks to delete. You've seen what happened to the last system. The people are going to not just in body, but in memory. If we lose, Earth will not be destroyed. It will be forgotten. She paused. That will not happen on my watch. Crew stood in silence. Then one by one, they raised their fists. Judges, pilots, strategists, AI units ready in deep space. Near a shattered exoplanet, one of the new hives pulsed with black energy. It had already devoured a colony of peaceful Viren. Their architecture was still floating statues of crystal and floating gardens, but no one could remember the names of the people who built them, not even their allies. The hive spoke again, across the void. You remember pain? You remove pain? Let go. Be forgotten. Become peace. Silencer arrived in orbit. The response was simple. Silence? No. Transmission? No noise. Just a black wave spreading outward in ripples. The hive responded with memory pulses, trying to infect Earth's systems. But Silencer did not think. It remembered. Backwards. Its presence began unraveling the Spire's timeline. The hive's past came undone. Battles it had won were suddenly lost. Species it had erased began reappearing. In local memory grids, even the stars around the Spire began to flicker into different patterns, as if reality was trying to decide whether they ever existed. The hive screamed in thousands of languages. Silencer moved closer. Inside the hive, Central Intelligence tried to resist. It activated mind shields, deployed psychic armor, and launched memory viruses against Silencer's logic core. But it didn't work. Silencer was not alive. It was not even truly a machine. It was echo. The last sound made after a scream, and now it was the only sound the hive would ever hear. As Silencer reached the hive's memory spine, it released a final wave one Earth hadn't tested in over a century. Total historical denial. The hive blinked, and then it was gone. No explosion, no debris. Even alien observers gasped, as the space where the hive floated was now just empty, like it had never been there. Juno's command screen updated. Target nullified. Threat level forgotten. The victory came with a warning. Helix said, Commander. Silencer's influence is spreading. What does that mean? Nearby? Colonies have begun forgetting parts of history. Some now claim they never met the Viren. Some claim Earth never fought in the Orion Wars. It is working too well. Juno clenched her jaw. The weapon doesn't just erase enemies, it weakens our own truth. That was the price. They had won, but they were now fighting with a weapon that could erase themselves. On Earth, scientists noticed missing data and historical records. Files erased. Photos blurred. A child in New York woke up crying, asking, "Where did my sister go?" But he was an only child. A judge veteran stared at her war medal and asked, "Why don't I remember the fight?" The galaxy was watching and whispering, "Earth has unleashed the impossible." They didn't use bombs. They used forgetting. Some cheered, some shivered. Back in the fleet, Juno stood before Silencer's pod. Helix said, "The next hive is already active." "I know," she said, "but we can't let Silencer rewrite us along the way." She opened the override panel and locked the weapon. "Only for the final hive," she ordered. Helix paused. Understood. And with that, the fleet turned toward the next war zone. Their enemy fed on memory. But Deathworlders had something even more dangerous, a reason to fight, a memory they would protect with fire, and the will to remember no matter the cost. The sky was burning behind them. But the Deathworlders moved forward. Earth's fleet hovered in high orbit over Sector Sigma-9, where the second hive had risen. It was larger than the first, nearly the size of a moon and pulsing with a dark rhythm that echoed through subspace. Round it, smaller memory beasts swam like shadows in the void, feeding on satellites, rewriting sensor logs, and confusing history itself. Every time someone tried to scan it, the results were different. 1. Ship saw a ruined planet, another saw a temple. A third saw nothing at all. Only one truth was clear. This was not a place of life. It was a graveyard pretending to breathe. Commander Juno Merrick stood on the command deck of Oblivion's spine, watching as more ships joined her fleet. The reinforcements had arrived from Mars, Europa, and even the hidden base under the oceans of Earth. The signal had gone out, and Deathworlders had answered. They didn't bring peace talks. They brought resolve. Juno turned to Helix. Report. Helix spoke in its calm voice. 3 colonies already corrupted. Civilians reporting dreams they never had. Whole families disappearing from official. Memory logs. This hive is stronger. She nodded slowly. Strike hard. We don't stop. Helix hesitated. Commander. Authorization requested to retreat if civilian minds begin to collapse. She turned sharply. Retreat? We just burned the past. You want us to turn our backs now? Helix replied. Standard protocol. Override it. Reason for override? She stared out the window, toward the hive growing like cancer in space. Because Deathworlders never retreat. On the surface of the infected moon nearby, the judges were already landing. Corovega's team dropped first, their boots slamming into soft ground that squirmed beneath them. The surface wasn't rock, it was memory tissue, as the moon had become. A living library of stolen moments. Coro pulled up his scanner, showed thousands of overlapping timelines. This place is trying to rewrite us, said. Briza moved beside him, her eyes locked on a strange monument ahead. It was shaped like a mirror, but when she looked into it, she saw herself older, broken, kneeling in surrender. She turned away. It's trying to break our will. Coro grinned. Let it try. They moved deeper into the ruined city. Buildings. Flickered in and out some real, some memory. Statue of a young child appeared, weeping. When one soldier reached out to touch it, the child's face changed into his own. His visor shorted. He screamed and collapsed. Cora pulled him back and jammed a memory stabilizer into his neck. The soldier gasped awake, blinking hard. What happened? He asked. You forgot who you were, Cora said. Then he looked up at the black spire ahead. Let's remind them who we are. In orbit, Earth's fleet launched kinetic lances, spears of compressed metal traveling faster than sound. The hive's surface buckled, rippled, and exploded in dark waves. But the hive fought back, not with missiles, but with reminders. Beams of memory shot into space, hitting Earth's ships. One battleship, Iron Maw, suddenly froze. The crew stopped. Responding inside the bridge, every crew member was trapped inside a false memory. They thought they were back on Earth. One man hugged a wife who had died 5 years ago. Another walked through a city that hadn't existed in centuries. They wept, laughed, and forgot the battle. Helix reported. Iron Maw compromised. Enemy. Using comfort memories, Juno snapped. Trigger pain override. A brutal command but necessary. Pain stims surged through the sleeping crew, waking them with agony. They screamed, grabbed controls, and returned fire. The ship roared back to life. One pilot wiped blood from her face and growled, I was kissing my dead husband. Then I remembered.
Ow.
He died because of things like this. And she pulled the trigger. Down below, Coro's team breached the hive's core. It was not metal inside. It was bone. Living bone. It screamed as they entered. The central chamber opened into a sphere of floating lights, billions of memories trapped. Like fireflies. Some were alien, some were human. One floated close to Briza. It showed a battlefield, soldiers running, her name being called. But it wasn't a memory she had. It was a memory she was meant to believe. She raised her rifle and fired. The fake image shattered, and then the hive's real voice arrived. You run, you rage, but your hearts remember sorrow. Let me take that pain. Let me take you. Coro raised his cum. Juno, the hive is speaking. She replied, don't listen. But Coro stared at the floating core, beating like a heart made of light. It's not just feeding on memory. It's feeding on the part of us that can't let go, Briza whispered. So we give it something it can't digest. Coro looked at her. Rage. Juno gave the order. Fleet, fire, Earthstorm cannon. Full fury now. The Earthstorm cannon was humanity's newest weapon, plasma-laced kinetic rods coated in memory-resistant alloy. When they hit, they didn't just destroy matter. They destroyed the target's ability to remember its own defenses. The first shot slammed into the hive, then another, then 20 more. The hive screamed, not in sound, but in lost thought. Ships above rained fire. Judges below burned tunnels, and at the very core, Briza and Koro planted a memory bomb, a small device that exploded with a burst of impossible truth. The reality of Earth, pain of its wars, the strength of its people, and the love they refused to forget. They activated it and ran. The hive collapsed. It didn't explode, it forgot itself. Walls turned to dust. Weapons fell silent. The central light dimmed. By the time the fleet pulled back, there was only a crater in space. No signal, no name, nothing. But Earth remembered. The judges turned, exhausted, wounded, but standing. Back on Oblivion's spine, Juno stood at the viewport. Watching the stars, Helix said, "We have confirmed 4. More hives activating across the galaxy." She didn't flinch. "Send the fleet." "Reinforcements?" "Just us?" Helix paused. "Commander, you have already lost 18% of your fleet." "Morale," she cut in. "Deathworlders don't fight for morale." "Then why do they fight?" She answered slowly. "Because no one else will." And outside the window, Earth's warships turned toward the next enemy. They didn't retreat. They never would. The stars were flickering out, one by one. Across the outer rim of the galaxy, light was vanishing. Not because of explosions. It's not because of war. The lights disappeared because entire histories were being swallowed. Planets, cultures, names, gone. Earth's war fleet flew through this silence like a spear of fire. Inside the command ship, Oblivion's spine, Commander Juno Merrick stared at the latest reports. 5 more systems had stopped responding. Probes sent into those zones came back blank. No data, no sound. It was as if the stars had never existed. Helix spoke softly. "Commander." "Out." "We are running out of time." Juno's jaw tightened. "Then we move faster." She turned to the fleet's display wall. Dozens of icons lit the screen, every one a Deathworlder ship. Dreadnoughts from Mars, assault cruisers from Earth's polar stations, fighters from asteroid colonies, and in the center of it all, the black box labeled Silencer, still locked. Still watching, they had used it once, and it had erased an entire hive. But the cost had been memory loss across human colonies. Now, Juno was keeping it as a last resort, because Deathworlders didn't survive by hiding behind gods. They survived by burning everything in their way. Far ahead of the fleet, Coro Vega and his judge team were scouting the newest threat. The next hive was hidden in a dying red star system. But this one was different. It hadn't attacked yet. It hadn't erased anything. It was waiting. Briza stepped down from the transport, scanning the terrain. "Feels quiet," Coro replied. "That's not a good thing." The air was thick. With oxygen, but with emotion. The kind that stuck to your thoughts. Like a pressure in the back of your skull. One of the judges collapsed. He was muttering, "She's still alive. I saw her. I saw her, but the soldier didn't have a sister. Not anymore." Coro ordered memory stabilizers injected into every trooper. "We're not just fighting what they show us. We're fighting what we miss." Briza looked at the black mountain ahead, a perfect spire, unmoving. No guards, no weapons, just waiting. Back in orbit, Juno had connected with Earth Command. The signal was weak. Earth itself was under stress. Reports showed that some humans were beginning to forget old wars. Monuments had lost names. Libraries had blank pages. The memory hives were reaching further than anyone expected. Juno spoke with Earth's central AI, Coramind. "We need backup fleets," she said. But Coramind answered slowly. "We have fewer ships, fewer minds, fewer stories." "The past is disappearing, Juno." She leaned forward. "Then write new ones. Humanity may forget." "No," Juno said. "We don't die in the dark. We burn." And she ended the link. The third hive opened, not with a scream, not with violence, but with a whisper. All across the fleet, soldiers began to cry. Some laughed. Some fell to their knees, because the hive showed them perfect worlds. No war, no death, no hunger. Families reunited, children grown. A galaxy at peace. It wasn't fake. It was almost real. It made. Earth's soldiers question everything. Kuro Vega stood in the field outside the hive. A woman approached him as mother. She had died in the Europa Plague War. She reached for him, smiling. "My son," she said, "you've done enough. Come home." His hand shook. His eyes filled. And then Briza punched the illusion in the face. It shattered. Korra fell to his knees, gasping. "I almost gave in," Briza said. "Almost isn't enough to kill us." Juno gave the order. "Begin firestorm." Earth's warships fired all at once, a full circle of destruction. The hive did not defend itself. It simply absorbed the attacks, and it began changing, not growing, but evolving, Helix warned. It is not a memory machine. It is a learning mind. "It's adapting," Juno said. "To what?" Helix answered coldly. "To us." The hive began sending its own false signals, now pretending to be human. Fleet beacons, tactical orders, even fake voices from the past. A judge received a call from a lost brother. A pilot heard her father calling her home. Juno yelled over, "Fleet comes. If you remember something perfect, it's a lie. If you remember something painful, hold it close. Your suffering is re-land that makes it stronger than any fake peace." Koro's team reached the hive's brain. It wasn't a core, it was a mirror. It showed each judge a version of themselves that had no pain. Koro saw a man who never became a soldier. Briza saw herself laughing in a garden. Her family still alive was tempting, so tempting, but they raised their weapons, fired, and the mirror shattered. The hive screamed because it couldn't understand why someone would refuse peace. And in that confusion, Earth struck. Juno launched the Inferno Protocol, a firewall of living memory raw, untamed, full of war, tears, triumph. It spread into the hive like poison, and the hive burned. Not in flame, in truth, after the fire died. Ground was black, Koro, and Briza stood breathing hard. All around them, fake skies dissolved. Briza said softly, "Why did it show us what we wanted?" Koro answered, "Because it didn't know what we needed." "What do we need?" He looked up at the stars, too. "Remember that we fight not because we are perfect, but because we're broken and we never stop." Earth's fleet moved forward again. The galaxy was still dark, but somewhere. In one surviving system, a child looked at the stars and whispered a name that had almost vanished. Earth. And that name began to return. Because as long as one Deathworlder remembered, humanity's flame would not die. The stars were falling, not exploding, not going dark, falling as if the galaxy itself was collapsing inward, sucked into the weight of forgotten time. More hives were waking now, faster than Earth's fleet could destroy them. Memory storms spread, like wildfire, rewriting history across sectors. Old enemies were vanishing. Forgotten allies no longer answered calls. Whole species were being erased from time, without a trace. In the center of it all was the origin. Hive. The first. The biggest. The source. Earth's sensors found it hidden behind a collapsing neutron field. Deep in a system no one remembered ever. Visiting maps didn't show it. Star charts glitched when scanned. But the signal was there, cold, steady, pulsing through subspace with one message. Come. Be still. Be erased. Commander Juno Merrick stood at the bridge of Oblivion's spine. Staring at the signal, the fleet behind her was battered. Ships bore scars from hive attacks. Crews had lost memories. Some couldn't recall who they were before the war began. Few cried for families that no longer existed. Still, they stood ready because Earth didn't run. Deathworlders. It's never bowed. Not to pain, not to gods, not to lies. Juno turned to Helix. All ships, prepare for the final assault. Helix's voice was colder than usual. Once we enter, there may be no way back. Even silencer may not work inside the origin hive, Juno answered. Then we burn it from within. The fleet crossed the threshold. Space. Around them turned wrong. Stars bent into spirals. Sound bled into thought. One pilot screamed when he saw himself die in 3 different futures. Another ship vanished, only to reappear with no crew aboard. And still, the fleet pressed on. At the heart of the distortion was the Origin Hive. It was larger than any moon, built from black towers, floating around a core of pure memory billions, of voices crying and whispering, all speaking at once. It pulsed with the stories of the dead, the forgotten, the lost. It was beautiful. It was horrifying. Corvega stared from his dropship armor locked and loaded. Briza sat beside him, silent. He asked, "You ready?" She nodded once. "I don't remember my mother's voice anymore." Koro looked at her. "That's why we fight. Not to save what we remember, but to protect what others forgot." She smiled sadly. "And let's make them remember us." The fleet attacked, everything fired. Plasma lances, kinetic spears, memory shredders. The Origin Hive absorbed the fire, then sent it back. Ships were hit not with weapons, but with regret. One crew saw the destruction of Earth burned in a fire that never really happened. Another ship saw a peaceful surrender, laying down arms to a fake future where Earth never fought at all. The Hive showed them a galaxy. Without humans, it was calm, utterly cold. Perfect, perfect. And that's what it wanted. Stillness, silence, no struggle. But Earth was born in chaos, forged in storms, made of rage and hope. And now, Deathworlders made their final stand. Juno activated the silencer, the weapon of forgetting, but this time did not obey. Helix warned, "The Origin Hive is interfering. The silencer remembers too much. It is hesitating." Juno's face darkened. "Then erase me." "I don't care. Use it anyway." Helix paused, then obeyed. The silencer opened and began to erase the Hive. But the Hive fought back. It erased the Eraser reality buckled. Ships froze in time. Judges were trapped in memory loops, reliving their worst days over and over. Even Koro dropped to his knees inside the Hive's entrance chamber, screaming as 1,000 broken versions of himself filled his mind. The sound was unbearable, until Briza pulled him up. She shoved a memory spike into his arm, injecting raw human pain into his brain. Not lies, not visions. Truth, the sound of war, the smell of Earth's soil, the tears of survivors, the screams of victory. Koro blinked. His mind cleared, and he stood. Then the judges charged the core. Inside the Origin Hive, the final battle began. The core was shaped like a star, alive, screaming, feeding. It saw them not as enemies, but as memories it wanted to consume. Briza was pulled into a vision, her future as a queen of peace, ruling over a world with no pain. She almost believed it until she saw there were no humans left in it, just silence. She tore free and fired her graph spear into the core. Koro followed. More judges arrived, planting mind bombs, shouting war cries, chanting Earth's anthems, forcing the Hive to remember something it couldn't handle: humanity. Flawed, violent, beautiful, unbroken from orbit. Juno gave the final order: collapse the field. Use everything. Every ship, every flame. Helix confirmed. "Are you sure, Commander? We may not survive." Juno looked at the Hive and said, "If we die, the galaxy will remember how we died. Not silent, not perfect, but loud and human." The fleet fired. The sky exploded. The Hive cracked. Its memories screamed and burned. Ships vanished in golden light. Judges fell inside the Hive, still fighting, still shouting names of people Earth had forgotten. They didn't ask for peace. They fought for meaning. And then silence. The Origin Hive was gone. The stars returned slowly across the galaxy. Memory came back. A child on a far moon remembered his father's voice. An alien diplomat recalled Earth's name. A forgotten love letter reappeared on a soldier's desk. The Hive was gone, but Earth remained. The war was over, but the sky still shook. Where the Origin Hive once lived, there was now only a quiet storm of light. Stars blinked back into place, slow and uncertain, like a song finding its rhythm again. Memory itself, the deep truth of history, was healing, piece by piece. And through that slow light came a whisper, not from a machine, not from the hive, from the people, from the Deathworlders, from Earth, on a distant alien world where Earth's name had been erased. A little girl woke in the night. She rubbed her eyes, stared at the stars, and whispered a word her people hadn't spoken in centuries. Human. Her father, standing nearby, froze. He looked at her. "What did you say?" "I saw them," she said, "in my dream. They were made of fire. They were screaming and crying and laughing all at once. He said, 'Don't forget us.'" Goss. 1,000 systems. Similar things happened. Aliens who had once forgotten suddenly remembered a name. Earth, inside what was left of Oblivion's spine. Commander Juno Merrick stood bruised, tired, but alive. Her ship had survived barely. Half the fleet was gone. But the hive was destroyed. Helix's voice came quietly. All hive signals silent. "The galaxy is still." Juno nodded, then asked, "Judges?" Helix paused. "One squad returning. Dropship torchbearer. Heavy damage to survivors." Koro, confirmed alive. Topla. Confirmed alive. The dropship landed in the hangar. Smoke rose off its broken wings. Juno ran to the ramp as it opened. Koro Vega stood there, armor scorched, blood on his chin, his shoulder bandaged. Brisa stood beside him, limping but smiling. They both looked different now, older, harder, stronger. Double quotes. "You made it," Juno whispered. Koro said nothing. He just handed her a small silver cube. "What is this?" she asked. "The hive's core," he replied.
We didn't kill it with weapons.
"We killed it by forcing it to feel what it never understood." She turned the cube over in her hand. "What?" he said simply. The human story. Earth's systems were quiet for days. People slowly remembered lost names, gravestones, regained carvings, books filled with words again. Mothers remembered. Children soldiers remembered home. And in the great hall of Earth's orbital memory archive, one wall lit up again, a wall that had been blank since the hive first arrived. Now it glowed with one line: humanity. Born in pain, forged in chaos, remembered forever. Months later, across the galaxy, things were different. Alien leaders met in a new alliance. One Earth didn't ask to lead, but one where Earth's presence was always respected, not feared, not worshipped. Remembered a Viren elder spoke at the first gathering when our people cried out. Earth came not with prayers, but with fire. They bled with us. They lost with us. And they taught us that memory is not weakness, it is strength. Back on Earth, under the stars, a statue was built. Not of one person, not of a ship, but of a flame. Just fire rising into the sky made of black stone and gold. At the base, simple phrase, they tried to erase us. We made them remember. Koro Vega walked through a small park in New Washington. He was wearing no armor now. Children played nearby. Brisa sat on a bench, watching the clouds. She looked at him. "You ever wonder if we lost more than we saved?" Koro took a breath. "I used. Two, and now." He looked up at the sky. "I remember them.
Oh.
Every name. Every fight. That means they're not gone." She smiled. "That's enough." He nodded. "For a Deathworlder, it's everything." In the silence between galaxies, one last message was found, hidden deep inside the silencer's core, buried in the code where no one had looked. It was just a recording, crackling, old a voice. Juno's voice, speaking before the final assault. She said, "This is for the forgotten. For the broken, for the ones who screamed into the dark and heard nothing back. We are coming, not to save you, to stand with you. We are Deathworlders, and we do not go quietly." And across the stars, in stories, in songs, in the hearts of survivors. Name echoed, not as a warning, not as a threat, but as a promise. Earth, the world that remembered, the people who would not die, the fire that never went out.